It's funny how you waltzed in here, assuming I'd come back. Well, let me tell you.
Musicals like 9 to 5, Wicked, and Sister Act all contain strong female leads. The question is, why are there not as many shows that portray women as strong and powerful? Why are there not many shows that include women who don't need a man to get by? There are so many shows still out there that portray women as weak and naive and needy for a man and needy for love. There are still so many musicals that misrepresent women and portray them as weak. Playwright and author of Her Turn on Stage, The Role of Women in Musical Theater, Grace Barnes discusses the way women are looked at in musical theater. She describes women as being depicted as bimbos, weak, and victims. She also talks about what it's like being a woman in the field of musical theater. Barnes talks about how men would ignore her and be dismissive of her. Barnes also explains how sexism occurs not only on stage and productions, but throughout the entire industry. I interviewed a friend of mine named Haley Wright, who is currently studying musical theater at Syracuse, and I asked her, how are women usually portrayed in musical theater, and do you think that's an accurate representation? She said, there are so many different kinds of female characters in theater, but I think the go-to ingenue is usually a woman in distress over her love for a man. Women are so much more than just an accessory to a man. You can tell in a lot of these shows that they have so much to offer the world, but no one can get over the same old love story of a sad woman without a man to love. This is not an accurate representation of women because women are badasses and can do anything they put their minds to. They don't need the help or love of a man to feel validated. Author Stacey Wolf, in her book, Changed for Good, A Feminist History of the Broadway Musical, talks about multiple things that show how women and feminism are portrayed in theater. Wolf thoroughly explains how the perception of women has greatly evolved from the 50s, where it was such a conservative era in theater and it was all about marrying the white man. She then talks about how not all shows should be about the ingenue white woman who needs a man to survive.
Okay, so first question. How do you think females are represented in musical theater, and do you feel that this is an accurate representation?
I think females are represented within musical theater. I mean, obviously there are some strong female roles. I just think we are, the representation is just vastly disproportionate. If you look at the industry and the amount of females that are auditioning, there's so many more women that are auditioning and that are in the industry compared to men, and yet we have just way more strong lead male roles. So I think there just needs to be more female roles for women because there's just more women in the industry, and so it's already so competitive for us, and they shouldn't make it more competitive by not having enough female roles. And then I also think that women in theater, especially older theater, just tend to be misrepresented. We're seen as props for men. We're seen as overused tropes, and there's just a lot of misogyny within older theater, and so we are misrepresented, I think, in that sense.
Thank you. Okay, have you ever played a role where your character is portrayed as weak or naive or needy for a man?
Yes. So I played Eponine, I feel like they tried to make her very strong, and she's gritty and she's grimy and she's dirty, and so she had to fend for herself. But really, when you look at Eponine within the context of the show of Les Mis, she is nothing more than what a man, Marius, thought of her. That's all she was reduced to, and so her character just ended up lacking depth, being very flat, and when she could have been very complex because of the background and the story that she had. But she just ends up getting caught up in this man, and that's all she's reduced to, and yeah.
And as a strong female, what's it like playing a role like that?
I'd say it's very demeaning playing a role like that. I, for one, consider myself very much rooted in who I am and being a strong woman and being a strong Hispanic woman and just being strong in my identity. So it does become demeaning, and it's also just hard to play a role like that because obviously you want to stay true to the character and how the story was written, but also you don't want to lose your own integrity and lose yourself within it, and I mean, I guess just advocate for a character who has morals that I don't believe in, essentially.
Absolutely.
Past. I never thought I'd be the one to say goodbye. You get out and stay out. I'm taking back my life. Dreams and plans are in the making. Success is out there for the taking. Wish it was as simple as it sounds. I have no choice, I have to do it. Face the future, walk.
Do you think the portrayal of women in Broadway shows should change, and how?
Yes, most definitely. I already feel like we're making good progress towards that change. I mean, if you look at, like, say Hamilton or Once on This Island, there's really great roles for females, strong females. But one thing that I always notice is, well, first of all, there's all these revivals coming back that are just bringing back that same sexism, that same misogyny, which I don't think needs to be happening. I'd say the rivals are a thing of the past. Why don't we push forward with theater and make theater that is for women, that is for minorities? And also one thing, I just wish that there were roles for women where they're not just the love interest, where they're not just having to depend on a man, where they have maybe a love interest that's a woman, where they have no love interest at all, and it's just a story about a woman, about the female struggle. So, yeah, and I feel as though we tend to be dehumanized as women in these shows, and I just want a show that portrays women in all of their complexity and all of their nuance.
Thank you.